Hello, and welcome to the EQUUUS Film and Arts Fest podcast, the only program for horse lovers who have a fondness for horses in film, art, and literature. Each week, we will have interesting conversations with equestrian filmmakers, artists, and authors from around the world, discussing the nature and challenges, as well as the triumphs of creating their work. Ready to talk horses and film and the arts? Here's your host, Julianne Neal, along with Lisa Dearson, festival founder and director.
So hi, Lisa. Happy January.
Hi, Julianne. Happy New Year to you and happy January. And here in Chicago, at least the weather's staying nice, so it is a happy January here.
Oh, absolutely. We're in South Carolina, and Bruce and I are going to ride today, so before the rain hits anyway, hopefully. So, yeah. So did you have a good New Year's Day?
I did, and I'm going to get to ride today, but we have to ride indoors because at least it'll be about 35 to 40 degrees, so we won't be below zero. One more day that we're not below zero.
You're my hero, because I would be under a blanket inside all the time. I don't know how you do it.
Hey, we're into the countdown. 3 months left, or less than 3 months till the first of spring.
That's true. We have had the shortest day already. So yeah.
Yes.
I like that. I like that. Well, I'm really excited that last week we had our first podcast episode, and here we are in episode 2, and I think we're off to a good start. I'm excited.
Yeah, and we get to meet a whole bunch of the EQUUUS herd now.
Yes.
In the coming weeks. So that'll be a lot of fun, introducing everyone to our herd members, as we love to call them. So
exactly. So we're going to talk to at least 2 of them today. But before we do that, it kind of struck me, we talked a lot last week about the festival and the early days and your plans for 2020. But I'd like to hear a little bit more about you and how you started this love for horses in the first place. Who was your first pony love?
Oh, well, the first pony I ever fell in love with and had at my grandmother's house that was shared amongst my cousins was Sparkplug.
Oh, gosh.
Which was a little paint pony that was a little pistol. And then the first pony that I ever had that my sister and I shared was a little leopard Appaloosa POA named Freckles.
Oh.
And friends of my dad's left Freckles tied out to a tree in my parents' front yard because they knew that my dad's girls always wanted a horse, my sister Mary and I. And my dad was never going to get us a horse. Neither one of my parents ever really had anything to do with horses. And just one day tied out to a tree in the front yard with a big bow on and a sign hanging on it, "Happy Birthday, Lisa and Mary," was this little spotted Appaloosa pony. And we had more fun. I built jumps in the backyard. Before my dad even got home from work, I had the garage all set up for the horse, and straw. I'd gone to the farmer and got straw and bedded half the garage down in straw. So my sister and I had Freckles for a while.
Oh, wow. So you don't think they had planned it out ahead of time to surprise you? You really think that was, he just did it, huh?
Oh, I know that it wasn't planned out because my dad had a little batch of stuff he did to get even with his two friends who had left the pony in the front yard, because the minute the pony got there, of course, the pony could never leave.
Oh, no.
So, ever since then, everything I've done and every cent I've been able to make has been to keep my horse. So
I understand completely. I was sort of the same thing. I started saving my money when I was 5, and I had $50 by the time I was in like 2nd grade. And this man at my church had a daughter going off to college, and so they had a horse they were going to sell me for my $50. And they just were ready to get rid of. His name was Rebel, and he was half Clydesdale. And oh man, I loved that horse for a long, long time.
I had a horse named Rebel too.
We have too many coincidences between Urano and Winston, my horse, and the look-alike, and now we've got Rebel. So that's pretty cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, well, I just wondered, and you actually, you're still, of course, doing all the riding and training and everything. So in your spare time, I say that with little quotation marks. In your spare time, what do you do now? It's training and breeding and all sorts of Lusitano things, right?
Well, it's Lusitano things. We're not breeding so much anymore because it's just too busy, and we're in a different situation with where we keep the horses. So we're more into just bringing the ones that we've got along and working the younger horses. And when I say younger, I mean 5, 6 years old. We don't sit on the Lusitanos until they're at least 5. They tend to take a lot longer to grow and develop their bones than your thoroughbreds or quarter horses. So we do a lot of groundwork and long lining and just basic, get to know your horse training versus, getting up there and riding. So,
and I've really enjoyed meeting. I know for the Camden Tour Stop, Jill, one of your friends who's a trainer in classical dressage came down, and of course your relationship and partnership with Mario Contreras, and there just seems to be a lot of different things going on in your area, and you're part of all of that. So.
Right. Well, we're very, very lucky in the Chicago area to have some of the most amazing classical trainers in the country, all within, an hour or so of each other. So, we had to have that ability to, get the exposure and get the training and work with people. I'm very, very blessed that way. And, when you say, Jill, that leads me to there's a great idea to have for, on the show. Have a day where can have Mario and have Jill and have Bruce talking, different trainers that we know.
That'd be great.
That have been part of the EQUUUS Film Festival, because we've had a short feature with Jill, and of course Mario was one of the stars of A Pony and His Boy, and Bruce has been featured in The Edge and his training series. So that would be exciting. A super interesting show for our listeners.
Definitely. Well, I know when I mentioned Jill, it reminds me she came to our Camden Tour Stop. It's been several years ago, but we had a panel discussion between Jill and my trainer, Mary Werning, who rode with Carl McCulka for 30 or however many years. I hate to say that. I don't know how many, but anyway, hearing them talk and just all of the different things that they're coming at it from. And I know I heard you speak about working equitation at one point too. How does that, are you still involved in that? Does that fit into the mix of what you're doing up there?
Yes, it's a sport that we're hoping will keep growing in this country as it becomes recognized in international competition. The Europeans are way more ahead of it than we are, as well as the people in South America. We've now got quite a few working equitation organizations in the U.S. and every state at this point has a group that if you're interested in working equitation, which is what I like to call trail class on steroids. It's ease of handling with the horse. There's a dressage phase. There's a speed phase. You're working gaits. You're going over bridges. And sometimes you're working with cattle. It all depends on what the person who's providing the event venue has available. But it's got a very distinct set of rules, and it's kind of like when dressage kind of got going in the United States in the 70s and the 80s, and when it really started to take off here as part of competitions that people were doing more so than just your hunter classes. When eventing took off, so it's something that I think as the older riders who mostly, I think eventers, it's perfect for eventers who, you just don't want to stop the adrenaline rush, but you're just not, you just don't have to go out and do the cross country and all of that. It gives you the ability to do those kind of exciting classes and and still keep up with the horses. And so I think it's something that a lot of the older riders are going to end up getting into before they end up into competitive driving, which I think that's another really great growing sport.
Definitely. Well, I know I had heard you speak about it, and then another one of Carl's longtime devoted students, Lydia Taylor, was talking about it recently, and it just seems like it levels the playing field. It doesn't matter what your tack is. It doesn't, it's your ability as a rider. It sounds exciting. So.
Well, what I love about it is you can go to a working equitation show, and be in the same level of class, whether it's novice or beginner novice. They even have an in-hand division where with young horses, you work them in hand in the competition. But you can do that with your English saddle, with a Western saddle, with a Portuguese saddle. Mm-hmm. You can compete bareback. The only caveat is that every phase, you have to do the dressage phase in the same tack and apparel, the speed phase, and the ease of handling phase. All have to be done in that same apparel. But you can ride with Western riders, you can ride with English riders, you can ride with dressage riders, and all of you competing in that same class, and it's about your ability and the horse's ability. So that's what makes it fun and interesting, and I think it's going to be a great sport for pony club kids to get involved in. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, you mentioned driving.
Look up working equitation.
Oh, definitely. We'll have to do that and put that in the show notes for today. And that was what I was going to say. One of the things that I really enjoyed about traveling to all the festival tour stops. I mean, we've been to the World Cup, we've been to World Equestrian Games, and we've been able to be at some of these competitions that I never would have gone to if it weren't for the festival and some of the tour stops. And so I was able to watch the driving in Tryon last September. And oh my gosh, you talk about having to be an expert in what you do. I was just in awe of the level of experience and expertise.
And Misty Wrigley, who owns Wrigley Media Group, who is one of our sponsors, our big sponsor at the Kentucky Horse Park, and they also provide us with the beautiful theaters that we're in at the Kentucky Horse Park. Misty is a gold medal winning award winner from World Equestrian Games with her driving team, and she drives all over the world, and she has created a beautiful course on her property in Paris, Kentucky. That she just hosted her first world-class event there this fall that I was able to go to, and it was to watch those people just come up the hills and through the obstacles. And there was a young man who was turning 21 that weekend, who was legally blind, competing in combined driving, and I'm trying to think, the navigator who's on the back, who hangs on the back, is telling him, turn left, turn right, slow down, go through this, go through that. And you hear the directions coming, and this kid whipped through this course, and just, I mean, it was, he's now, trying to be on the para-driving team. So it's very exciting. And it's, again, with the para sports, there's so many opportunities for people.
That just gave me chills thinking about that. I mean, dang. Well, and the para riding, para driving and all that, I'm sort of interested in anyway, because of the film we did, A Pony and His Boy. I just can't wait to see what happens with Josh and his riding. Could you talk about that a little bit? Tell a little bit about the story of Josh and Barry.
Josh and Barry. Barry, who's 30 now, is actually in better shape at 30 than he was in his 20s, is just Mr. Sassy Man out with he's got 3 mares now that live with him in his turnout. And I think that's probably the best thing that's ever happened to him, is be able to get him out of a stall situation and get him out where he's moving all the time and, in a turnout. So that's just been a blessing for him, because he's just now, he's just flourishing in this situation. But Josh is my stepdaughter Julie's now he's 9. Gosh, my head flies. Son who has Down syndrome, and Barry, at the time we made the documentary, was his 28-year-old rescued pony, who is just a sweet little star now. But Josh, last night I got a chance to, Josh and Julie stopped by the house, and they were heading over because Josh is now riding Havana a lot.
Oh, wow.
So he's up on the big horse now, which is
his
amazing.
His mom's horse.
His mom's Lusitano mare, who's 7 or 8 years old. No, 7 years old. But Josh now, his dream is to make it onto the Special Olympics equestrian team. So, that's something that's going to be fun to watch this grow out of this moment that happened in a field completely out of the blue when he said, "Me ride Barry." So now we're going to watch him as he grows, as you continue this little docu-series now. We'll kind of think of it that way, because it's so much fun to keep people in the loop and letting everybody see how Josh is doing. So,
well, from him being so afraid of horses in the beginning to now, I mean, it's a hero worship thing with Mario, and just being determined to be a knight at medieval times and all that. I mean, that just shows his strength and determination anyway. So I can see he's going to go far. Can't wait to see where he ends up.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun getting it, just following this story so far. So
definitely
stay tuned for more adventures of Josh and Barry. Hi, I'm Lisa Dearson, director of the EQUUUS Film and Arts Fest. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
One of the regular features that we have planned for the podcast is an organization spotlight. So we'll be able to tell you a little bit more about our sponsors, our partners, and other organizations that we find doing positive things for horses. Our first spotlight will be the All Glory Project. I had a chance to catch up with Carl Lindstrom at Breyerfest this summer, and he'll tell you a little bit more about what they do.
Well, my name's Carl Lindstrom. I am the Chief Operating Officer for the All Glory Project. The All Glory Project is a 501c3 nonprofit charity that was founded by Elizabeth Shatner, the horsewoman, and wife of William Shatner, right, to support the entire industry of equine therapy for veterans and their family members. Our mission really is kind of unique. What we do is we fill in the gaps in the industry. We do things that, there are many centers around the country that provide the therapy, right? And they provide many levels of equine-based therapy, all the way from clinical level psychotherapy down to like family ranch days. But they're busy doing that therapy all the time and getting their training and that sort of thing. So what we do is we raise money and we grant those funds to the centers. First, we vet them very heavily first, make sure they're highly qualified. And that's a big part of making sure that the sector stays very strong. We also do a lot of peer-to-peer education within the industry, and we help other industries come and learn about what equine-based therapy is for veterans and how they can help support it. So it's sort of like a united way of equine therapy for veterans and their family members, and that's the important thing too. The family members, the support system, going forward over the future generations are going to be just as important as the veterans themselves, because without that support, the therapy just kind of dissipates, right? Yeah. So as a matter of fact, Mustang Saviors, which is a film that is at the film festival right now, features Bravehearts. And Bravehearts is a therapy center up near Chicago, Illinois, in that area. And they were one of the first centers we worked with back in like around 2011, 2012. And these centers, actually having films like this, like what Lisa's doing, like showing the communities around the country what equine therapy is all about, is a really important part of our educational mission. Because the more of these equine-based centers that there are, small, large, medium, it doesn't matter as long as you get your training, right? The more opportunity there is for the veterans to get help that just is very unique, that almost nothing else, almost no drugs, almost no talk therapy can do. Now, drugs and talk therapy are great for some veterans, but some of them need the horses because the horses have a very unique thing. So the more we can promote through films or advertisements or donations or just tell your friends about equine therapy for veterans and their family members, and what a huge difference it can make for them for the rest of their lives. And that's what the All Glory Project is all about.
Special thanks to Carl for sharing what you do with the All Glory Project. Now back to the podcast. Well, Lisa, you've done a fabulous job of putting together a team of people. You, of course, are the driving force behind all of this. And I can say, I see where, I'll look on Facebook or whatever, and you're up in the middle of the night finding stories and doing things and all. So we can't thank you enough for all that you do. But I think part of it, too, is that you're really great about finding the right person to do the right job. And so with your team, and you've built this over the past couple of years, one of the main people I always think of is Diana DeRosa. And to have her as part of what you do, I mean, she's a veteran equine photographer, photojournalist, and she's done so much. How in the world did you two meet up, and how did she become involved in the festival in the beginning?
Well, when we moved the festival to New York, and we were in Harlem the first year that we were there, which I think was 2014, Diana had come to cover the story of the festival coming to New York. And I remember her sitting in the theater that we had the film screening in was they were just renovating this whole beautiful restaurant bar area of it, and there was a very small lobby that we were able to have some of our artists set up in. That was when Beatrice came from Portugal, and she had all her beautiful work there. But Diana was sitting in kind of like this little bar alcove area, and I started to talk to her, and she's like, "This is just the coolest idea. I just love this idea. Anything you need me to do to help you get this message out, I'll help you."
Wow.
Well, and as you know, don't say that to me, because I'm going to take you up on it.
Yep.
And so the next year in 2015, she helped with doing some of the organizing in New York, and we brought her. She kind of came on board in 2015 and fully on board in 2016 as co-organizer of the tour stop, or the festival stop in New York. We still do our tour stops all over, but she's just been an integral part. She's amazing. It just, things couldn't happen without her. The people she knows, the horse knowledge she has, the gift she has as a photographer and a videographer is just priceless. You just can't put a value on how helpful it is to have someone of that caliber on a team, bringing, to help bring this festival to everyone. So
absolutely. Well, from the panel discussions, she knows the right questions to ask. I love how, in watching her run a panel, I'm always conscious of how she kind of weaves the story, and she leads from one person to the next. And when there's somebody talking a little too long, she knows how to cut them off, and how to make it all flow, and to do all that, and then to see the articles that she writes after an event, and the focus that she puts on everything. As you said, she's obviously very good at it. So why don't we take a few minutes and hear a little bit from Diana? So our next guest today is definitely an integral part of the festival. From covering Olympic Games and World Cup events to the Westminster Dog Show and more, she's been a photographer and journalist for over 30 years. But I believe truly that the horse events are the ones that she loves the most. I might be prejudiced on that, but I'm so excited today to speak with our veteran equine journalist, Diana DeRosa. Diana, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for asking me on board.
Well, we're in our episode 2, and so it's been really exciting to just talk to Lisa a little bit and get some background from her on how she started things and where the ideas came from and all that. You've been a part of this thing for a long time, right?
I actually went in 2014 when it was in New York City for the first time, and I loved the idea. So I contacted Lisa to just give her some suggestions on things coming from an equine journalist. And we never stopped talking. We're still.
Well, I'm certainly glad. I know I met you. Bruce and I came in 2015, and I met you and Lisa about the same time. And so the two of you have done wonderful things ever since. And so, yes, we look forward every year to bringing y'all to Camden for the Camden tour stop in the spring. And so I've really enjoyed getting to know you through all of that. So.
Yeah.
We the last time I saw you, in fact, we were at the festival at the Kentucky Horse Park, and we were scurrying around, and you were doing panel discussions and all kinds of recording and photography and everything else. So what have you been up to since you got home? Are you back in the real world now?
Oh my gosh, it's just been so busy. I'm actually preparing to go to the United States Equestrian Federation convention that will be taking place this upcoming week. I plan to go there and be there all day Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday, believe it or not, I'm going to visit Hippocrates Health Institute because another one of my passions is being healthy.
Yes, I remember. You were down there about a couple of years back, right?
I sure was. And I reached out to them and mentioned that I was going to be back in town, and they loved the idea. And so I'm going to meet with the new PR person and possibly do some more writing and photography for them.
Well, what I love is that every time you go to an event like that, or you attend something else, you've even done this for me when I bring students to New York. I always know that you're going to bring out an article and pictures and all sorts of things afterward. And so I just remember with Hippocrates, you were able to do a series of articles, digital media and that sort of thing, and really help tell people about what they do. So that's one of your talents, I believe. You were able to pull things together and showcase all sorts of stuff. How did you get into that sort of work?
It depends on which angle you're talking about. When it comes to the health part, it has to do with myself reversing my own arthritis and no longer needing a hip replacement and stuff. I just when I started seeing things going negative with my body, I had always looked into alternative methods of healing yourself. And so the first thing I did was went down to Hippocrates and sort of learned from them. And then we went out on my own to do whatever I could. When you refer to the horse world, well, I was always one of these people that wanted to travel the world. When I was a young kid, I can remember in 6th grade, the teacher said, "What do I want to do?" And I said, "I want to learn languages so that I can travel the world." Well, that turned into me getting involved with horses and running a stable. And then one day, a gentleman came up to my barn and asked if I knew of anybody that would want to write a horse column for their sports publication. So I volunteered. That turned into an equine publication eventually called Horse World USA. And that turned into 13 years of me traveling the world and covering events. And this year I'll be doing my 9th Olympic Games. Even though that magazine ended, I still continue to do what I'm doing with the horses.
Wow. I just can imagine your first Olympics. I mean, how did you decide to go? How did all of that come about? And how excited were you to be there?
It was always my dream to go to an Olympic Games. And I had so many friends in the industry that just kind of helped me along after doing the magazine. And when the 1988 Olympics came up, I applied and I got credentialed, which was not easy. It's definitely one of those things that you're super, super happy when you get it. But then you get there and it's so overwhelming. In many ways, the excitement is fabulous, but the workload is really tremendous. You get very little sleep, but it's sort of, if you can manage to do it, it kind of paves your way for potentially doing more Olympic Games, and that's really what I've done. It's the one thing I looked forward to every 4 years is the Olympic Games.
Well, and I can imagine there'd be a lot of pressure. This is your opportunity to get these great shots or to cover these events or whatever. And so, to make sure that you're getting all the right stuff, that's a lot. That's a lot to do.
Yeah, the pressure is definitely there. I mean, things like the podium shots when your country gets a medal, you don't have that a lot of time, and you better make sure that you know your camera equipment pretty well. Whether the sun's in the wrong place, it doesn't matter. You've got to get those shots because usually that's your assignment. For me, I'm a freelancer, so I go with multiple assignments. And what people don't often realize is that for the Olympic Games, what happens is you spend the entire day covering the different events, taking photos, taking notes, and then your day begins after their day ends. So you spend most of the night staying up and getting photos out and writing stories and what have you. So it becomes a very long and non-ending event because it goes, one day you get to sleep at 3:00 and you've got to be up at 6 the next morning. It's pretty tough, but it's incredible.
Are you able usually to do all of that while you're there? I mean, or do you bring it home with you and then you're having to write the articles and that sort of thing?
A lot of it you have to do when you're there now, especially nowadays with things being online and stuff. But there are certain articles, if it's a print publication, where you're given a little bit more time. But a lot of it has to be done right away. And you have to be fast because everybody else is trying to get out their photos too. So you want to sort of beat and get at the head of the pack.
And I've always noticed, I mean, I'm so impressed, everybody. Everybody knows you. So that's part of it too. I mean, to cover all of it, you have to know who you're looking for and what they look like. And, you have to be able to track people down. So you're definitely well connected and well admired, I should say. So.
Yeah, I have to say that, it started out with me being involved with running a stable and taking students and competing myself and traveling the circuit nationally and internationally on my level, and then starting the magazine and then covering everything in it. I mean, I probably traveled almost every single weekend for 13 years in the beginning, and now I basically do the major events, but over time, I've done so many stories about so many different people and so many events that you really do end up getting to know the different people in the horse world. So, yeah, I'll go to an event. And I know even for this thing I'm going this weekend to the United States Equestrian Federation, I'll be saying hi to 100 people by the time I'm through with my 2 days because I've known them for so many years.
Sure. And I mean, you were the president of the American Horse Publications Organization and you're part of Long Island Press Club. I mean, you're doing something all the time, so I just don't know how you have the time to do it all.
I know. Sometimes I say to myself, how do I do all of this? But, I'm a workaholic, and and I love the American Horse Publication because the key people are on the board, and we've got a very active board, and same with the Press Club of Long Island. So I only get myself involved with doing volunteer things when I can see that those who support have that same energy and drive that I do.
Yeah. That's a wise move on your part. So becoming involved with the film festival was obviously a good thing for everybody involved. What is your favorite part of that work? I know you do a lot. What is your favorite thing to do?
I really love moderating the panels, doing the interviews, even before taking the photos. But I do certain parts of it. I love doing the welcome party and emceeing the welcome party and emceeing the awards ceremony. I also do that for the Press Club of Long Island awards party. I just really love doing that because I feel like, between Lisa and myself, our goal has always been to create a platform for people that do movies and films and all of these different things. And because it's never been there. And thanks to Lisa's vision, that became a reality. And I love the fact that I can support her dream and, it becomes my dream. And Lisa is a really die-hard worker. She's an endless worker. She gets back to you quickly. And it's one of the reasons I kept doing it because I know that I can count on her if I need an answer or need to get something done quickly. I know she's always there.
Well, she was mentioning to me earlier that, she really enjoys your moderating of the panels as well. So that's definitely a high point. And there was one in particular that was recent that I know you've posted some things on your YouTube channel and other social media places too. And this one in particular was dealing with traumatic brain injuries. and you have a lot. I know that you do a lot of research before you do a panel. We've talked about that before. And so a lot of thought goes into being able to weave the stories and ask the right questions and pull things out of people that maybe don't necessarily talk that much, or being able to cut somebody off. As we laugh about you sometimes when you do a panel with Bruce, you have to kind of stop him and rein him back in. So, I mean, it's just, you have a talent for being able to pull the right amount of information out of people, I think. And so that's pretty special.
I think that true journalists are people that really listen. It's, how sometimes you talk about people and you don't feel like they're actually listening to you, but true journalists really listen. So when I'm doing a panel, I get caught up in what people are saying, and they give me the questions that I want to ask them. They give me the same questions the audience probably wants to ask them. And, that is why I think I love doing the panel so much, because I feel like not only have I researched it, but I'm learning. I'm learning even more from spending the time with these people and realizing what they've been through. It's one thing to research and read. It's another thing to feel their emotion and to hear their answers to their questions and to be able to bring that out. I had spent many years with the Hampton Classic Horse Show doing their live local TV station, and I would spend 6 hours sometimes just live. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're interviewing people and you talk to those people and then you put the mic in front of them and they freeze. So you sort of kind of learn that the best way to encourage people to talk is to talk with them and not at them. Mm-hmm. It's when you feel like you're part of the conversation, and when they feel like you're part of the conversation and they feel your interest in their answers, I think that helps them to communicate what they're feeling, and they get that information out to the people they're speaking to.
And I think it's your attention to detail. Like you said, you're listening while they're talking and you're not already thinking of the next thing. You pay attention to every detail. And so, you've had other situations in life that I think have been because of that very attention to detail. I know that you had a long time, I don't know if you would call it career or a long time responsibility, caring for Christopher Reeve. How did that come about?
I was doing PR at the National Horse Show at Madison Square Garden when Christopher came. And, anytime he went to an event, it took a lot from the person that was handling his needs to getting him there and stuff. They had to communicate with somebody at the event to make that all work, being an important person like he was. Well, I happened to meet the person that I eventually was, doing the same thing that he was doing for Chris. So that's actually where I met Chris. It was a series of events that finally put me in that position, and that I did for 8 years for him. And basically I was his road manager. And he was such a fabulous person that had been dealt this blow. And he had such a wonderful wife and kids and everything, that even though it was a, tough job, I loved every minute of it, just because I felt good about not only helping Chris, but understanding the world of people with disabilities. It really, I think, made me a more compassionate person to see, now if I see someone in a wheelchair, or I easily will go up to them and start a conversation, because it's just so, once you've been in that situation where you work with somebody like that, what life is like for them a little bit more. And yeah, so I did everything. We did all over the United States and all over the world.
Wow. And you were there firsthand for all of it. I know, just watching some of the films that we've had in the festival that are all about horses and people with disabilities. It's just, there's some eye-opening work out there. So maybe someday we'll do a documentary about your work with Chris. I don't know. So horses, back to horses. How in the world did you decide in the beginning that you loved horses? Because I know you do. What was your first pony love?
What happened with me is we lived in Rocky Point when I was a kid. and in a very small house. And at the time I had two brothers. And I remember one year for my birthday, when I blew out the cake, the candles on the cake, I wished to have a horse one day. And then what happened is we moved to Huntington, and we moved to 5 acres. And I came home when I was in 11th grade, and I had just taken my Regents test. And when I walked in the door, it was an algebra Regents test. And I said, I might have gotten 100 on that algebra test. Well, my dad heard me, and he said, if you got 100 on that test, I'm going to make your dream come true. I'm going to buy you a horse. Well, I got 100 on the test, and he went and bought me a horse. We couldn't at the time afford a saddle or anything like that. So I used to ride my horse bareback. And then the whole thing with running a riding school, there was an opportunity to run this riding school. I had very little experience, but I dug right in, and I started to run this riding school, and I did that for 13 years. And we developed, it was Mrs. D's School of Riding was my mom's name. And we just did everything. We did trail rides. We went to shows. I had a crew of people that worked under me. I trained horses, and I loved to work with the troubled horses and stuff. So it just became my passion, and I loved mostly going on trail to train them.
Oh, yeah. Which was your hardest? Was there a horse in particular? You said you liked the difficult ones. Was there one that you remembered specifically?
I had this one horse. I was driving home one day, and there was this woman leading this horse up my driveway, and the horse was sort of anxious and what have you. So I put my window down, and I said, can I help you? And she said, I am looking for Diana DeRosa. Someone told me that she is the one that I should have train my horse. And I turned around and I said, I'm Diana. So I said, and she said, well, would you get on my horse? So we drove up to the arena where I lived, and I got on this horse. He was off the track, 17 hands, had never jumped a fence before. And so I started to train him, and she took me to compete on him in all different kinds of shows. And when I stopped training him, we went from cross bars to 4 foot 1 inch fences down in Florida. And, we had our share of victories, and, it was an amazing experience. I loved him. His name was Panache. And that was, but I can tell you, there was a moment when I changed bits on him. We were schooling in an indoor arena, and we were jumping like a 4 foot fence. And at the very peak of the fence, his hind legs were over me on top of my head. And I went flying, and we, at that point, got a stronger bit for him. But he was a powerful horse, but just my favorite.
Oh, wow. I think that's the thing. The ones that are the most difficult, when you accomplish something, it's like you feel that sense of reward for sure. So I guess we wouldn't be in any of this if we didn't love them all. So what would be your favorite horse film? If you had to pick, it doesn't even necessarily have to be one from the festival. What's your favorite horse movie of all time?
That's a hard one for me to answer, because there's so many different genres. So, is it the movie film that you like, or is it the commercial, or is it the therapeutic film? I mean, there was one, a PSPT is
a PSA.
With the veterans.
PTSD.
PTSD.
Yes.
There was one, our very first year, I remember watching this PTSD film that won, and it was about a veteran who had tried to commit suicide, failed that, and was led to horses. And it just rings a bell with me. I think part of it was because of my work with Christopher and realizing how much horses can do for people, even paralyzed people, how much they can do. And I also think about Bruce's work, and I think about that autism child that he worked with, and how, that to me I think are the films that captivate me. But I also don't like to just focus on therapeutic, because I think you have to try and stay very positive. So I think you need to have a balance of fun films and, fictional films and non-fictional and therapeutic and,
Right.
all different ones. So it's hard for me to actually pick one film.
I guess that's not fair for me to ask, but I always have to. I have to. Mine goes back to Misty of Chincoteague, because that's how I got into it in the first place. But yeah, I mean, I like that Lisa has a balance of feature films and fictional stories, but also the documentaries. So
yeah,
it's
and I'm more like Zorro. And
yes, I like that too, definitely. So we have a lot going on with the festival, and I know you have a lot going on too. What's next for you? I know you've already mentioned coming up soon, but are there long range plans, Olympics, and all the other things coming?
Well, one of the other projects I'm working on, and actually in a way the EQUUS Film Festival will be somehow connected into that, is I am working with Equitana USA. And that is an event. The Equitana itself is an event that takes place in Germany. Very, very well known. I was there once. It's been around for 37, 38 years. And it's coming to the United States September 25th to the 27th. I am now on their team, the Equitana team.
Wow.
And I am helping them, maybe in a consulting capacity. My title is Media and Relations Manager, but I really try to kind of spread the word about this wonderful event and help get demonstrations and help people that I know that want booths and do a combination of things. I love the team. They're very efficient, and I think their goals are, they do everything so well. They've started early, which as a PR person, I love people that get that you have to really do long-term planning and stuff. So that's part of, and probably the reason I'm going to go to the United States Equestrian Federation, because they are a partner to Equitana USA. And I want to, sort of talk to people. And if people have questions, I'll be there for them to talk to me about Equitana USA. And then also an extension of that is I have helped some of the people that have films with the EQUUS Film Festival to become a part of Equitana USA. And that includes Sue Ann Wells, who has When the Dust Settles, and Sandra Bollier, who is Artist on Horseback, and Lindsay Partridge, and so many others that are involved with the EQUUS Film Festival that are also going to be a part of Equitana USA. So
that's phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah. So and EQUUS Film Festival will probably showcase the films of these people that have booths and stuff, and we'll probably bring them into Equitana to do panels, and maybe also have panels over at the museum where the theater is and stuff. So it's a kind of good connection there between the two that I have. And then and then my next event, I just got back, a few months ago from the Pan Am Games in Lima, Peru, which was phenomenal. They did such a fabulous job. And then this year, my treat for the year is going to the Tokyo Olympic Games in July and August. So
talk about exciting. Well, we'll have to have you back on the podcast again when you're getting closer to that time, so you can keep us filled in on everything with that. So
exactly,
you've got a big year,
yeah. And I think another one of my passions that's kind of going into other directions, and I think is an extension of loving to moderate and doing the TV, live TV and stuff like that, is I'm a part-time actress now. And I've done, a few parodies and different things and extra roles. And I was on Worst Cooks of America. And but that's kind of circled into some stuff that I'm doing for my brother. My brother has some mansions, and we're working on getting movies filmed at his mansions on Long Island. And so that's another passion that I'm pursuing as a side thing.
That's wonderful. Well, I know whatever you do, you're successful at it. So I'm really happy for you. Very happy. So if folks wanted to know more about what you do, or wanted to see some of the photography from different events or whatever, how would they find you?
they can find me at www.dianaderosa.com. That's where all my photos from all over the years are. .net would be my actress website, and I am on Facebook as Diana DeRosa, and I'm on Instagram and Pinterest, and my big thing in YouTube, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And YouTube would be where they find a lot of the EQUUS Film Festival films, under Diana DeRosa, because we've been to many different places, and I've done interviews and moderating and all of that kind of stuff, even at the World Equestrian Games. And that was sort of a very cool thing that Lisa and I had the chance to bring the EQUUS Film Festival to the World Equestrian Games in Tryon.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So very good stuff. Well, we'll put all of that in the show notes too, so that everybody can click on the links and find you there. So thank you so much for speaking with me, Diana.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been a great conversation here.
Yes, it has, and we'll look forward to many more.
For sure.
So, Lisa, it's pretty obvious to me why you consider Diana such an important member of the team, right?
Oh my gosh, no doubt about it.
I mean, the panel, like you mentioned recently, we were talking about panels and discussions and just the questions she asked.
Well, one of the best panels, I think, so far that's up on her YouTube page, and we'll be posting a link up, was the panel that we just did in Lexington on TBI, traumatic brain injury in riders, and how those riders have used horses to heal themselves and come back. There were 4 women on the panel who suffered traumatic brain injuries from an early age in Tori, who's now in her 30s. Her traumatic brain injury happened when she was in her 20s. We had Brittany Halstead there, who runs Replay Polo. She's in her 30s. Ellie, who was a teacher, a special education teacher, she had a traumatic brain injury. I'm going to say she's maybe in her 40s or 50s. And then we had Victoria, who is in her 70s and still teaching and training and working horses. And to listen to Diana weave the stories with these women on how horses have helped them come back from life-altering accidents and trauma with brain injury to functioning and happy and working, and just it was amazing to watch that panel and to sit. I've sat and watched that, rewatched it a couple of times more since it's been up on YouTube, and it was just such a powerful panel. And Diana just was able to take and get those ladies to open up and, gosh, just tell part of, show their heart.
Yeah. I think that's what her talent is that she's able to find, not only the right questions, but the way to touch you so that you are able to share and that the audience picks up on it and can share in that moment too. So she's special. She's good at what she does.
Well, there were people in the audience crying after watching that panel, and Tori Phelps, who was on there with her mom, Barb, because they were talking about her accident happened in New Zealand, and they were talking about how the healthcare system in New Zealand was so much better and what they did to help them and how the healthcare system actually used the horses. But Barb's son Mason was sitting in the audience, and he came up to me afterwards and he just said, I had no idea. And he's been there taking care of them through this whole thing. And so that is just a credit to Diana's interview skills.
Absolutely. So I can't imagine her not being part of everything. So congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I love my herd.
Well, I think it's mutual. I think I said that last week, but it's definitely mutual. So we're gonna keep it going.
I'm Diana DeRosa, and this episode is sponsored by PressLink PR and Diana DeRosa Photography.
So let's talk a minute about the music that's used in this podcast. I guess we're going to trade out every now and then, but for this first couple of episodes, it's from
Jane Baldinger, who her daughters are featured in the CD, and they've all gone on to be pretty good musicians in their own right now, and they're performing. But they were pony clubbers, so this is kind of a really kind of cool horsey connection with a CD named Pony, which is what the CD is named, and we'll have a link to people to go and listen and maybe purchase their a few of the cuts off of that CD, because it's just great music. I love any kind of good music, but when you tie horses into the music, that just gives us an added punch. But we've had music videos in the festival for the last couple of years, and you of course know Jar, who's written Horse and quite a few other songs, and we've had some really, really beautiful music entered. So I felt that I don't want it to get lost year by year, kind of just back into the, this here, there, it was part of it. I want people to be able to access it. So we now have a page on the website, and once everything gets set up, you'll be able to click on the artist or the song and go directly to their point of sale. So you'll be able to go and purchase the art or the musicians from the EQUUUS Film Festival, and we're doing the same with our authors. So
I think that's awesome. The Amazon link,
the Amazon, being partners with Amazon and being able, because I think it's just the way everybody shops nowadays. It's just easier to be able to click, and if you like something, and so by having the Amazon links on the books, and we'll have each year's worth of books will be up and available so that people can purchase those books directly and not have to do any kind of hunting and searching and going to websites and trying to find out where to purchase it. If it's been part of EQUUUS, you'll be able to purchase it directly a click-through link right on our website.
That's great. And it's sort of a continuation from the Film Festival Flicks website, where you can see the films, of course. And if you haven't been to that site, just go. I mean, I think Benjamin Oberman has done a fabulous job of setting up the different genres and the way things are. And I know you've had a lot of help from different people with that, but it's a great way to see. It's the Netflix of the horse world. I mean, great way to see.
Well, and Benjamin's a visionary with putting together, he has created a collection of different eclectic film festivals from around the world that, by being a member of Film Festival Flicks, you can watch these films, as well as being a member of the EQUUUS Film channel. You can see some of the different things, and from downhill skiing to sailing and hunting and fishing. I mean, there's just so many different, very specific festivals around the world that he's put together underneath a Film Festival Flick. So he's a pretty brilliant man when it comes to that. And EQUUUS is thrilled to be hosted on that platform, as well as with Horse Network and the partnership with Elaine Fuller and Carly Sparks with Horse Network. They've just done a beautiful job with interviewing and writing stories about films that we have up on our platform, on the EQUUUS Film channel, that we'll be adding. The goal is to have another 10 or 15 films up by the end of this month, and just continue to keep adding all of our content. That's so that all of the films that have been part of the festival, short or long, will be available for our fans to check out.
That's wonderful. Well, that's our time for today, Lisa, but I look forward to meeting more of the team members next week. And I think it'll be an action-packed episode. Hopefully we'll be hearing from Carly Cade and Candace Wade, and Bruce and I'll throw in our 2 cents as well, and it'll be fun.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much again, Julianne.
Thank you.
It's just been a lot of fun meeting the herd.
Definitely. So go have a great ride, Lisa.
I will, and pony on, Julianne.
Pony on. Bye for now. This episode of the EQUUS Film and Arts Fest podcast is sponsored in part by Nature's View, the Marley Project, and JA Media Productions. To learn more about what we do, visit naturesview.us.
Please be sure to tune in next week when Julianne and I have another interesting conversation with one of our EQUUS Film and Arts Fest filmmakers, artists, or authors.
For more information about the EQUUS Film and Arts Fest, visit our website, equusfilmfestival.net. To see more of the EQUUS movies, visit the EQUUS Film channel at filmfestivalflix.com.